Well, this is Q&A. Okay.
Yeah, Walt, would you just start us off with a prayer?
Please.
Yeah.
Our dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we again thank you for these natural remedies you've given us. And Lord, give us wisdom. Give us wisdom of how to apply it to ourselves, how to apply it for our families, not just be selfish and use it ourselves, but our neighbors and our friends and co-workers, but again, not just to be selfish for health, but also, most importantly, as an entering wedge that we can point folks to you, as your Son is the one that is doing this healing. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
I actually have two questions. The first one is, last night you did mention a web address
For us?
for you.
Yes.
Could you tell us that again?
Yes. You can go to this QR code, and it will have that in there.
Okay.
And you can, know how to do that? You go and put your phone on it, and then push the yellow thing, and then put the contacts, and it will give you my address, my phone number, my email, my
Birthday?
no. But you know that. It will give you our Facebook, we're on 4 platforms: YouTube. What's some of the others?
Instagram.
Instagram. And the website and one other. But anyway, themustardseed.us. Themustardseed.us. Facebook is a real simple one. It's Mustard Seed TN for Tennessee. And I'm doing a series right now as a lifestyle program. And you can do that. We've got folks listening from Sweden to other places in Europe, to even over to Asia. So listening, so all over the world listen to it.
And then the last one was this morning this morning you gave a recipe for stop smoking.
Smoker's
Could you give
Blend.
that?
Yes. And I don't use it just for smoking. I have found that it's working for drinking. It's even working for drugs. But I learned it from a doctor for smoking. And it's 3/4 of a cup of lemon juice, 1/4 of a cup of honey, and 1/3 a teaspoon of peppermint essential oil. You just take a nip when they get a hankering. And I found it also works for folks who are coming off alcohol. I found it works for people who are even coming off drugs. It just stimulates the body to kind of take their mind off of it. It's called Smoker's Blend.
Smokers.
3/4 of a cup of lemon juice. I find fresh lemon juice tastes a whole lot better than that one in a jar. I mean, it's got to taste decent for them to take it. If it's too nasty, they ain't going to do it. 1/4 of a teaspoon of honey. I'm sorry, thank you. 1/4 of a cup. 1/4 of a cup of honey. So it's 3/4 of a cup of lemon juice. 3/4 a cup of lemon juice. 1/4 of a cup of honey, and 1/3 of a teaspoon of peppermint essential oil.
Are you ready? This
Yes,
is an
ma'am.
online question. Somebody wants to know how to combat the red devil chemo that they had to take about 12 years ago. They've had frequent shortness of breath.
That's the one Mary Lou took. Yeah, adriamycin, the red devil. It's terrible, awful. It's organ specific. For Mary Lou, it literally put her on the heart transplant floor at UAB. Theirs is what organ?
Just says shortness of breath is what they're
So
having.
they're just having shortness of breath. So you want to support that organ is what you're wanting to do. And so you can support lung function. The best thing I have found is mullein. Mullein is a great herb to help lung function. Let's see, who's the RT that's here? Is RT still here? He's gone. He's from Haiti. Okay, Emmanuel. I have a friend who's an RT, And she tells me the very first thing on supporting lung function, the most important she's found in her career as an RT is water. Adequate hydration is so important for lung function. Yes, the mullein is very good. That helps. Also, exercise helps that lung function. And yes, you can use a spirometer and different things to help support. Trying to think. Do they have her on any type of a inhaler?
I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, see if she's using an inhaler and it's helping. There was that same surgeon I mentioned, Dr. Arcilla, who was the top surgeon in Philadelphia in his field, and also did the trauma care at night at the major trauma center there in Philadelphia. He taught me something, and I asked Dr. Thrash about it, and she said, absolutely, it's fine and it works. And that is, he would replace albuterol, and he would take a nebulizer, and he would fill it up with distilled water up to the line. And then he put 4 drops of eucalyptus essential oil. Now, most nebulizers won't work because of electrolysis, and so you have to put 1 or 2 pieces of salt in it, or a drop or 2 of trace minerals in it for it to work. And I've been sharing that with folks for probably 22 years now, and he worked on our staff, and that's what he'd have our patients do who were on albuterol, and they found it to be more effective, not having the side effects. It's inexpensive, and it's a bronchial dilator. And I asked Dr. Agatha, I said, is that safe? She said, absolutely it is. So, and CPAP? Yeah. I mean, Grandma used Vicks. Yes.
I have a question about the not using sunglasses. I use them a lot because I get migraines. I have photosensitivity. So how can I overcome that?
Yes. So there's a couple ways. One is, what kind of work do you do?
I work indoors.
Okay. So it's not like you're working outside in agriculture.
But the lights at work sometimes trigger migraines for me too.
There is something called full spectrum lights, and you can buy them. They can be fluorescent. Look at what Neil Nedley talks about in full spectrum lights. He actually sells a little full spectrum light that you can use for places when you're up north and don't have it. But do you have the lights at work? Are they fluorescent lights? Like 4-foot tubes?
It's at Walmart. I don't know what they use.
So you're all over the place. So that ain't gonna work.
But I know that like the lights on the headlights on the cars, the new headlights, they bother my eyes. If you have those light bulbs at home, they bother my eyes.
Is there any kind of glasses or any kind of night glasses or anything to help with that? Wow. I know that sunglasses can cause challenges, and we do need some sunshine. And if you're going to get the sunshine, get it early morning, evening, not the brightness of the day is beneficial.
When you say early morning, are there any specific hours?
Just that ultraviolet light's going to be available in the morning. And it's going to be more during the midday, but just go out earlier in the morning. It might bother you less with the headache.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
Sleep.
Mm-hmm.
You had talked about people go to sleep a couple hours and they're awake for 2 or 3 and then go back to sleep. Do you have any wonderful answers for sleep?
Sleep deprivation is the biggest thing I work with right now. When I first, 20 years ago, which was 20 years ago last week, actually, that we moved back to Tennessee, to Newport, and the biggest thing I worked with was female hormones and stress. Today, the biggest thing I work with is people coming in, they can't sleep. The first thing is Harvard did some research on the issue of sleep in regard to COVID. And we have seen increased sleep issues since COVID. Is it still going? There you go. And so Harvard did some research into it, and so did National Geographic do some research into it. And something very interesting. Yes, we want the room cool, not hot. You want to be no light to low light, no noise if possible. I have a hard time when I go to New York City. I mean, I live up in the mountains, and yes, I have my windows open at night, and I can hear the hoot owls and the crickets and those things. But it's a whole lot different listening to them sirens and gunshots and all the crazy stuff in New York City. But it needs to be as quiet as possible. The room needs to be neat. If you know, a lot of times you're thinking about stuff, write it down on a piece of paper and let the paper remember it. Then tomorrow morning you can put it back up in your head. But Harvard found in National Geographic during COVID, people turned their bedroom into a multi-purpose room. It was the office. My sister-in-law, she works at Vanderbilt. Well, she no longer works at Vanderbilt. She works from home. And she turned her bedroom into a very nice office. Still works from her bedroom. People turn their bedroom into the dining room, into the entertainment room, into the library, and to many different things other than sleep. And so both Harvard and National Geographic, they made the same recommendation. Harvard said, when you go in the bathroom, you're not looking for a pizza in there. Your brain knows it's for this purpose. And Harvard said a bedroom is for 3 purposes only. Those 3 purposes: sleeping, changing to clothes, and relations between spouse. That's it, period. Nothing else. Don't eat in there. Don't do your office in there. Because when you wake up at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, the brain goes, let's see, what do we do in this room? We could turn the TV on. I could read. I could look at my tablet. I could eat something. And the brain just doesn't identify that room as only those 3 items. And it says we need to remove everything but those 3 items to retrain the brain to do what it needs to do. An example, Kellogg found that one of the problems with constipation is that people ignore the urge to go. And then Kellogg said the brain would then just say that's not important and didn't identify it. So Kellogg said what you do is every time you go, you have the urge, immediately go. Immediately go. Don't wait until a truck driver says, well, I'm going to wait till my next gas station. Or a school teacher says, well, I can't leave the kids in the room alone, and so I've got to wait until I have a break. Or a person working at Walmart says, I got to wait till break at Walmart. You know, so say you work at the cashier. You can't just say, I got to run. Right? So Kellogg said, when you have the urge, immediately go. Immediately go, immediately go, and you retrain the brain that is an important feeling to have the bowel movement. And so Harvard is saying, retrain the brain. The only thing that happens in this room is those 3. Yes, George. Oh, there's another one, but he has a comment.
6 questions ahead of him. We'll get him.
Okay, so the second question.
Dr. George.
Do you want to go back to the second? Oh, he's speaking to this question. Okay, so the second. So let me continue on then. So that's one thing. And there's all kinds of sleep aids you can use. I mean, some people find melatonin works great. I usually find it doesn't. It usually increases sleep, dream activity. Some people, nightmares. But some people, it works perfect. Some people use L-theanine. That's a great tool. It's an amino acid. Mary Lou uses something called Tranquil Sleep, which it's got 5-HTP, it's got L-theanine, and it has melatonin, and it puts her out. I've got a veterinarian that he says just one of them puts him out. I had a lady and husband come in one day, and I told him it's normally chew up two tablets, chewables, and so she was kind of scared. He comes in the next day, says she was kind of scared, only chewed up one of them, but then had to go to the bathroom, fell asleep on the toilet. So she decided the next night she was just going to do a half one. It's not a cookie cutter, y'all. Everybody's different. Yes, I found, who knows what copaiba is? Phenomenal essential oil. Comes out of Brazil. And copaiba, and it appears to be the most anti-inflammatory phytochemical in the world that has been identified. It's very, very good anti-inflammatory. And you go to talk to a Brazilian, they'll tell you about it. They've used it for years in Brazil. They put 5 drops under their tongue before going to bed and they fall asleep. Some people use magnesium, and that works well for some people. There's all kinds of things you can try that are natural.
Lavender.
Lavender, yeah, lavender's a great one. Oat straw. Yes, I use ashwagandha. My problem is turning this thing off because I'm used to having 200 and some employees. And my brain has been trained to prepare for moving the ship 200 employees. I ain't got that now. And so at the end of the day, my list, very few things got done for many reasons. And then I'm trying to process that at night, being frustrated that what needed to get done didn't get done, what I'm going to do tomorrow, and I just can't shut this thing off. And Mary finds that I'm just not settling down. And she says, you need some ashwagandha? And I say, I'll take one. She puts 2. And I'll take it, and it calms my brain down. And I'll go to sleep. It doesn't make you sleep, it just calms your brain down.
And what's that?
Ashwagandha.
Can you spell that?
You know I can't spell. ASHWAGHANDA? I don't know. Ashwagandha. Yes, I spell phonetically and I don't speak for it to work right. So ashwagandha, so when people in the middle of the night wake up and they're worrying again, like mamas do, us guys, we wake up to go to the bathroom 10, 15, but a bunch of times, ladies wake up to worry about the kids. They go to sleep and they wake up to worry about the kids again. And so the ashwagandha does help. But then the problem is, it may work for a month, 2 months. And like deodorant, some people, they use deodorant and it quits working and they got to go another kind of deodorant. Well, the same thing's true. It might work for a while, then it doesn't work, you got to go to something else. So you just have to keep trying different things.
You said something before the tranquil sleep.
L-theanine.
Can you spell that?
No. L-T-H-E-theanine. L-theanine. But that's in the tranquil sleep. It's an amino acid. There's all kinds of sleep aids out there, y'all. You just have to try which one works best for you. Now, I'll tell you what works good for me. It works real good. And I encourage you to use it. And it works for both of us, as long as I fall asleep first. If I can't fall asleep, I'll ask her to give me a back rub. It works. I fall asleep, I get the back rub, and she's having problems sleep. When she starts rubbing my back, she gets sleepy, and she falls asleep. So she doesn't mind doing it because she knows she's going to fall asleep. The problem is when she falls asleep within 5 seconds. It's not long enough.
And my other question is homeopathy. What are your feelings on that?
Homeopathy. Look at what the ingredients are. There's some homeopathy stuff out there, as you read the ingredients, can be bat dung, it can be roaches, it can be all kinds of stuff out there. And I'm not interested in that. And so look at what's in that.
My question is about the use of vitamins or supplements. For instance, I have a whole lot of vitamins that I bought, recommended ones, and I just decided to stop because I didn't know what I was doing. How do you use them, when, or why? Can you put some light on that, please?
I can. The best vitamins you can buy are in your backyard. The best vitamins you can buy are in your backyard. Grow a garden and grow it biologically. There's organic gardening, there's conventional gardening, and there's biological gardening. I went to Portland, Oregon one time, and for 3 days we studied organic food versus conventional food. We actually found the conventional food had more nutrition in it when we looked at the nutritional value and tested it than the organic. No, the organic did not have pesticides and stuff on it, but the organic farmers didn't spend time in amending the soil. Biological gardening, the soil is amended. You test the soil, and it's far more than just the typical testing that you do from the co-op, from the Department of Agriculture. Get a hold of, who's ever listened to Bob Gregory? Study Bob. Bob was in the top 12 experts in roses in the world, and he became a Christian. Bob was on the way to commit suicide, and an Adventist pharmacist stopped and picked him up and told him about Jesus. Bob left that industry, making big money. He now takes that knowledge that he had, that tremendous science knowledge Bob has, and put it to agriculture. And Bob has found a way of testing. How many of y'all know Alan Kennedy? Alan's over in Athens, Tennessee. Alan does the same kind of testing that Bob does. He can teach you how to do that. So you want to identify the soil, what it needs for nutrients. Not only see, Bob says you don't want just what makes that asparagus grow. You want to know what makes asparagus grow and what the asparagus can pull up to make you healthy. That asparagus can pull up to make you healthy. And so you want to amend that soil. And then you want to use seeds that are heirloom seeds. University of North Carolina Department of Agriculture found that hybrid seeds on average can take about 40% of the nutrients out of the soil that heirloom seeds do. Therefore, you're only getting 40 cents on a dollar. Plus, you can't grow them again if you can't buy seeds. And so you want to use heirloom seeds to get the most nutrition out of your soil. And organic farmers don't pay attention to that. They'll use hybrid seeds. The other cool thing about hybrid seeds I learned in a class I took 2 years ago, is another nutrition class I took, and they were talking about where around 1903 in America we were having problems with heirloom products rotting faster. It didn't have the shelf life. It couldn't move across country as well. So they started spraying it with a chemical as a byproduct of a pharmaceutical, actually. And it helped. Well, then they found out they could hybridize it and hybridize out those chemicals that were making it rot faster. Well, then guess what those chemicals were? Amylase, protease, and lipase. They were just digesting the fruit. And so God put digestive enzymes in the food to help with the digestion of the body. So you want to use heirloom. And there's a lot of things, but the best place to get those vitamins is out of your garden. And then if you have health issues, and that isn't enough, as when I asked Campbell what I could do for more B vitamins for a person that's majorly stressed, he said, you're going to have to do some supplements.
Okay, you mentioned things like vitamin D and B12, B6. These I keep here as recommended. Should I just go back on them? I have some still waiting. Or should I leave them alone?
Yeah. Check your vitamin D blood level. Check your B12 blood level. And that will, now, a lot of folks will say, even the NAD back 23 years ago said Adventists need to take vitamin D if you're plant-based. I'm sorry, B12 if you're plant-based. And so I asked Dr. Agatha that, and she says, I find more vitamin B12 deficiencies in animal eaters than I do in plant-based. An example, I don't take B12, but my B12 is 1,200 and some. Sometimes bounces up to 13. Mary Lou's is 1,300, sometimes bounces up to 1,200. That's plenty. I don't need it. So you need to look and see what you need.
There's a virologist by the name of Lenny Horowitz. I was one of the few who are familiar with him. He wrote a book entitled Emerging Viruses, AIDS, and Ebola, and he starts out the book by talking about an experience of his mother. She escaped the Holocaust only to come to the United States and die of the flu shot. And my father became very, very sick. My sister had to take him to the hospital. Something about the size of an egg began to swell up in his neck. And then I asked my father, I says, well, what did you drink? He says, I drink what I always drink. What did you eat? I eat what I always eat. And then I said, Dad, did you go and get a flu shot? Because I told him to stay away from those flu shots. And he says, yes, a couple of days ago he went and got a flu shot. This particular virologist, he also made mention about a person by the name of Robert Gallo, Gallo, and he was warned back in the early 60s that if we went forward with, this vaccination program, I think it was the polio vaccine, that there would be an outbreak of cancers like you would never seen before, like sarcoma and leukemia and all of that. But he got a grant from the government and he went forward with that. And I was just wondering, do you advise people, to kind of be leery about vaccines? What are the pros and cons that you could share about that?
I'm not licensed to advise on that. I can tell you what my opinion is. I used to strongly encourage my staff to take the flu vaccine every year because corporate told me to. The hypothesis was if the staff all took flu vaccines, we would have less people out sick, less pool service, pool being stat nurses that we had to pay coming in pool staff, and it would be, bottom line, financially, we were willing to pay the cost because we owned our own pharmacies. So it was cost effective to give the folks the vaccine and thought that we'd have less folks out sick. I had some staff every year they'd argue with me. Nope, I ain't taking it. And I tried and tried, never could get them to. But then as I observed, they didn't get the flu. I did. So I thought one year, let me try not taking the flu vaccine. I didn't get sick. Well, let's test it again. Science is testing, right? The second year, I did not take the flu vaccine. I didn't get the flu again, where every year prior, I got the flu. So I quit messing with my staff and telling them they need to take it. Just be on it. It's available. And I quit taking it. And to me, I'm not interested in those vaccines anymore. And George can speak a lot more from what he can recommend based on his license.
If they take it away, I'll come cut your grass or make some vegan ice cream for you. I used to be pro-vaccine, thinking it was a smart thing, but here's what and I used to take the shots and go lots of efforts to get patients. Oh, you need to get a hepatitis B shot. You could be in a car wreck, and go way out, bizarre things. First off, at best, the flu shot probably works 20 or 30% of the time, maybe. Bad news is it can change your life the rest of your life. You're going to be sicker. You're more vulnerable for cancers. Not smart.
It's a guess.
So the pneumococcal shot we used to think was good, but you have to treat 850 people to save one pneumonia. And you take those same 850 people, give them to drink more water, get away from the secondhand smoke, and all kinds of other things have been a lot smarter effort. And injecting anything underneath your skin as this physiologically makes little to no sense. So, and then the shots for kids are terrible now. They're like 70-some, these shots are just unheard of. And the kids that go up in the Amish communities and those who are getting smart and not getting it, they don't get near sick, they don't get the cancers, they don't get the asthma, the ADD. They do a whole lot better.
Yes.
So do your homework, and anyone who's had the COVID shot, it's not even a vaccine, it is gene therapy. What we're finding out just recently, if you have family or friends who've had this, there are some good detox protocols. You may ask me out later on. Dr. Peter McCullough does some great stuff. And Pierre Corey's with a group. It's kind of hard, but if you think frontline COVID critical care, or call my office, we'll let you know the resource, but it's out there. They do some great stuff. And pray for them. They have my son's book, but some of those guys aren't mature Christians yet, but they're being very fearless. But there's lots of things you can do, but you can't trust sciences. I appreciate the studies you're quoting, but right now you can have hardly any confidence in most studies that tie into drugs.
Yes.
Dr. Fauci has not been our friend, and there's so much corruption, those studies, you really can't base it on good, true science. So we're in a unique time. It's a wild, wild west, and sad to say, most of our universities, most of our big healthcare systems and hospitals, they are compromised, and they're not. They don't have the options. They're not being honest, and I think doing good ethical medicine now. So be careful.
Yeah. I think the thing that really opened my eyes, I was not interested, but I've had so many people come in with health issues. I had a lady come in, and she had the vaccine, and she turned red. She turned red. She was on fire. And she'd been that way for 2 weeks. And nobody in the medical community would even address it and help her. And she was tortured by it. A lady calls me from Charlotte. Her 13-year-old daughter, who was very high scholastically, very involved in sports, rode horses. The physician talked them into giving that 13-year-old the vaccine. She became a total invalid. She says she hangs on to me like a monkey. She could do no ADLs, no activities of daily living. She could not dress herself anymore. She could not feed herself anymore. The mother had to do everything for her as an invalid.
A couple things to add. What's amazing, people have had very unique neurological issues. I mean, they're saying probably it's at least 1 million U.S. citizens have died from the vaccines. That's very strong ties, and that's being very conservative, and 17 million people worldwide, so it's not been a good thing. But everyone's heart metabolism, it used to work on free fatty acids. Now, anyone's had a vaccine, it's not a vaccine, it's a COVID shot, it's a gene therapy. Your heart's metabolizing on sugar, which, that's not the way it's designed to be. You have a sick heart now, let alone the myocarditis. A couple other brief things. I believe in the methylated B12. The bad news, genetically, 60% of us don't metabolize it very well. Some do, 40% do great, but the other 60% are either slow, kind of slow, or real slow. So methylated B12, I kind of like the drops, and you can get methylated food for folate, but methylated drops, be at least watching that here. I'm still studying into that one. So I don't know, it's neat. Some people say if you don't floss your teeth, you get some B12 from that. So it's intriguing where you're getting your B12 from. But B12 levels don't tell you much because you don't know if it's, especially the average person they're getting B12, but if it's not methylated, it doesn't work very well. And it can actually be kind of hard on your body. So methylated B12, and you hit age 60 or more, your stomach acids don't work quite so well for a lot of people. So now they're not really getting, so now you're almost 100%. B12 deficiency is real common, so prevention's good because when the damage is done, it's not always easy to rebound from.
Yeah.
And final thing too, if you use any deodorants, never use antiperspirants, back to the magnesium, there's a magnesium RBC test. Cash is only $5. They probably charge more insurances, but magnesium, really, it's involved in over 850 reactions in your body. So bump up your magnesium, because most people really want to be the high normal, like 7.5 is high normal. You want to be close to 5 to 6 to 6.5 to be really good on your magnesium.
I don't know if you caught what George just said. Get an RBC magnesium, not a serum. The serum the hospital's telling us now is not as accurate. They're telling me only 1.5 to 2% of our magnesium's in the serum, and it's not equal with what the RBC is, and the RBC is a whole lot more accurate.
Your magnesium RBC stores 40%, the rest is in your bone marrow, so it's a cheap test to let you know are you A grade, B grade, C grade, or get working on it. And through your skin's a great way to get magnesium. A little in the Epsom salt baths, but there's some magnesium sprays. It works great for deodorant, and just through the skin's a great way to get it. And magnesium oxide, unless you're severely constipated, you only get 4% absorption. So that's one, there's lots of magnesiums out there, but avoid the oxide unless you're constipated really bad.
And one of the challenges that we have, the number one diagnosis in America is stress. With stress, adrenaline goes up. And then the body has a fire extinguisher that dumps magnesium to protect the cells from the harmful effects of the adrenaline. And so you're dumping magnesium constantly while you're stressed to protect yourselves from the harmful effects of the adrenaline. And that's another way you become magnesium deficiency. Also, if you're taking calcium, don't take just calcium. I believe the best way to get calcium is green leafy vegetables. Read the book Death by Calcium. But if you do take a calcium supplement, do a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 part calcium, 1 part magnesium, better yet 1-to-1. But if you're just taking calcium, you're losing more magnesium. Yes, ma'am. Okay, yes, ma'am.
I want to thank you for sharing God's system, systematic health care system with us, at least the outline. We live in a community or in a place where people are resistant to our health messages, or just basically being told what to do. Not that we go and tell them what to do, but they're resistant to that.
Yes, they are.
How do we implement this plan in a God-loving and just in a practical way so that people would be receptive to it?
Here's the mistake we make. We think our mission is to convert people into vegans and drink their water and whatever. That's not our mission. Our mission is to point the sin-sick soul to Christ. So, also, we spend so much time thinking we're not successful unless they come to this church on Sabbath, every Sabbath. Not that that's not a goal, but it didn't say that. It said point the sin-sick soul to Christ. So, our mission is to share the love of Christ. Our mission is to show people through health that Christ loves them and He can heal them, and use that as an opportunity to show them that He loves them. And so when we go out and tell the typical, especially mountain folk, whether it's here or whether it's where I live right now, it's amazing how much where I live is very similar to this neck of the woods. When we tell them what to do, they don't like that, especially if you ain't from around here. When I went to UT taught us that the hardest mind in the United States to change is the Tennessee mind. The second hardest mind to change is the North Carolinian mind. But the hardest of the hardest mind to change is the Appalachian mind. And that's what you're trying to change. So don't try to change them. So here's an example. If you go to that Appalachian person and you tell him, them hog jaw and chitlins, that's killing you. You know what you just told him? Your wife and your mama are trying to kill you. Don't do that. And so he's got his food with biscuits and gravy and with bacon and whatever's on there, steak, whatever. Don't tell him to put a whole food plant-based diet on there, because he ain't going to do it. That just ain't going to happen. Because the East Tennessee mind is the hardest, our Appalachian mind is the hardest thing to change. If you want to start a union and Daddy didn't belong to a union, I ain't joining a union. But if Daddy belonged to a union and Granddaddy belonged to a union, yeah, I need to belong to it because Daddy and Granddaddy did. That's the thinking. And so you've got to look at our I have to say our thinking, because I'm one of them. And so when you can listen to me talk. I've got that accent that they relate to. And so I'm not someone that's coming in with a different accent. And y'all that moved in, you know what that accent can be a barrier sometimes. And so there's more trust what I have to say, but I know when I've tried to say, you got to push everything off that plate, it ain't happening. And so what I have to say is, you ever tried bananas before? You know, if you're having a potassium issue, stick you a banana on there. One thing at a time. And then all of a sudden, I got a lady who comes. She's been coming to our store for 20 years. And she's from that area. She would not eat one thing that Mary Lou would make. Didn't taste good. She will eat anything Mary Lou would make now. Because over 20 years, Mary Lou has changed that woman's tongue. The challenge we have is we think we're going to meet with them one time, one expo, one cooking class, and we're going to change everybody's tongue. And it doesn't happen that way. It's over time. And so when you say, I like smoothies, I like starting with smoothies and say, who doesn't like smoothies? I don't care if your plate's filled with what. Smoothies are over here. And find a smoothie that they enjoy and start with that. And then start working on things. And let's say they have health issues and say, listen, can I help you with this health issue? I found that if you exercise more, it's going to help. And literally I have people tell me, I don't do any water. I just don't do water. I don't like the taste of water. And so I think, I pray. And that's what you got to do. Pray that God will bless it. And if you can get them to drink a pint of water a day, you've done a lot. Get them used to that pint. And then get them, and they feel better with that pint, then they can then do another pint. Now your goal is not to get that person to drink water. Your goal is to point them to Jesus. And pointing people to Jesus is not a thing that happens over one series of meetings. It's friendship evangelism. And this is a way that we can get that person here, in that room over there, not in here, but in that room over there, and we can share with them health ideas that taste good, like healthy desserts or something. Let's say they have a problem with diabetes, but they really have a sugar tongue, and they want to, and they know desserts are giving a problem, and just say, listen, you got problems with diabetes. I found some desserts that taste real good, plum good. You know the word plum. If you want to give a local lady what do you say? Compliment. Tell her food's plum good, but do not tell her it's plum bad, or she'll throw an orange skillet at you. And so you tell that person, I found some desserts that are plum good, and they won't mess with your diabetes. You know what I'm saying? Figure out how to just slowly start working with those people. We do classes at our church that are called how-to classes. And that's how we get them there. We'll do a class on how to, I just had the TBI come in and do a class on identifying human trafficking. We do classes on gardening. That's real. People like that one. Or how to can. People have gone away from it and they're wanting to come back to canning. How to dehydrate. How to bake bread. So many people, they don't bake, and they'd like to learn how to cook bread again. So we do all kinds of how-to. Our old pastor did a photography class. And then I'll do classes on like how to make healthy smoothies, or how to go shopping and look for food, and how to read labels. All those kind of different classes you can do as how-to classes. Look at what your assets are. What does your church members have as an asset? Do you have church members that don't do a cooking class and not be able to cook? Try to do. I have seen people try to do a bread baking class and they didn't know how to break bread. Pardon? Yeah, right. And prepare for it. Don't just shoot from the hip. Come in professional. And don't talk down to them. If you talk down to these people, they ain't coming back. If you're judgmental, they ain't coming back. And not only are they not coming back, their family ain't coming back, and all their friends ain't coming. That's just how we are. And so don't make local people mad. If they don't forget, they're like elephants. And so you want to figure out what are the concerns in the community, health-wise, and then Mrs. White said the most successful is go door to door. That's what she says. Your neighbors, door to door. As you go and you take that loaf of bread, I'm Susie and your neighbor up the road and just wanted to bring you some bread. And They may not tell you their health problems that first time, but you may take them another loaf of bread. And then you find out they have problems with, it may be arthritis. Wrong thing to take them, according to Dr. Thrash, taking that bread with arthritis. But, and I find the best way to address arthritis, I'm literally finding, and she told me this back in '08, and it's true, is to go wheat-free because of the chromosome change. Now, they're tolerating the wheat out of Europe, the jovial wheat, but that wheat's 14 chromosomes. This is 42 chromosomes. It's sprayed with Roundup. And she told me, she says, Walt, if you will get them off wheat, their arthritis will probably go away or significantly improve. Their psoriasis, eczema, rosacea. And I find if they'll stay off that for 3 to 4 months, they have significant improvement. So what we used to do as bread baking is a little different thing today. Go with the more, either the ancient grains or you can bake bread that's not wheat. But take them something that they would like. And then you can find out they may have problems with high blood pressure. And then you can talk to them about, well, what's the causes of blood pressure? Well, stress is a huge one. Dehydration is a huge one. Outside deal body weight is a huge one. Kidney function is a big one. Sodium is a big one. Clogged arteries is a big one. Hardening of the arteries is another one. Heart issues is another one. And then when you learn that person and know that they're just wound up real bad with stress, then start sharing with them things that can address those health issues. And I really believe that we will be more effective one-on-one. I do. Building friendships, I'm the most effective on one-on-one. I'm seeing that. I have classes, people come, but the people I just work with one-on-one, I have the best results. And that one-on-one is that person, they now trust you. You helped them with that blood pressure. You helped them with that lupus or whatever they had. And now, and all the time you say, do you mind if I pray? Well, we live in the Bible Belt, and most of us don't mind if you pray with us. Is that true, George? It's true. And then you say, God, will you bless this person and heal this person? And you talk about Jesus doing it. And just because they go to the Baptist church, the Methodist church, or whatever, or even the Seventh-day Adventist church, doesn't mean they know Jesus. And your goal is to help them to see His love through you, your kindness, your caring. You're not there to reverse the diabetes. You're there to point them to Jesus. And that is where we mess up so much. I had a general conference president. He just retired. And he said, Walt, you don't understand health evangelism. All you have to do is do a health expo. One-time event. Or just go around and pass out health flyers. It's the Holy Spirit's job to do everything else. He has never studied gardening. Jesus said we are supposed to work as gardeners. And gardening, you got to prepare the soil. You got to disc it. You got to plow. You got to pick up rocks and sticks and disc it and plow it again and pick up more rocks and sticks until you don't get rocks and sticks. And then you got to plant the seeds and you got to water it and you got to weed it, and that takes time. But how many members y'all got here? How many? Huh? Okay. How many come on Sabbath? On average. On average. 75. That's about average right now. 50% still. So 75, if each one of the 75 over a year's term, over 2024, one person, that's all you need. You'd have 75 people, new people next year. And one-on-one, do medical evangelism. Now, how do you learn it? That's where this place comes in. You do health classes and teach your people how to do health classes, teach them nutrition, teach them, how to cook and healthy food. When I married Mary Lou, she ain't from around here. She's from the Adirondacks near Canada. So she spent a lot of time with my two grandmothers and my mom to learn what kind of food would make my tongue happy. It wasn't healthy. It was Southern food. But then when we changed 23 years ago, 24 years ago, she started changing. And she's figured out how to take the family recipes and turn them into healthy ones. So learn the healthy recipes. You go to Bermuda, what do Bermudans love? Macaroni and cheese. You figure out a healthy macaroni and cheese, and then Bermudians be on you like duck on a June bug. And so you look at the local tongues. Look at what folks like. Learn to make it healthy, and then invite them to eat it. Or you may do a supper here in local. Just do a free meal for them, and you could have a class. But the members have to learn first. I was at a church in Virginia, and we would do evangelistic series. We would spend $5,000, $7,000, even more on an evangelistic series, and maybe have one person show up. Maybe. And we said, this ain't working. So we took a whole year off evangelism. And every month we spent 4 hours on a Sunday teaching hydrotherapy, teaching cooking, teaching different herbs, just all kinds of medical missionary stuff. How to develop a health plan for people, and just a whole year for 12 months. The next year, we didn't do it at the church because in different communities, people just ain't coming in here. This may not be that community. But in that community where we were, they were not going to step foot in that church. So we did it at the boardroom at the hospital. That gave us some credibility. We would, if it was a cooking class, we did it at the library. The library had a kitchen in it. We averaged, on those classes once a month, doing classes, we averaged high 30s to 50 people coming from the community. The lowest we ever got was somewhere in the 20s, but the majority of the time it was near 50 people coming to the classes. And then we even would put in the middle, and we'd ask them, what do you want? Don't do classes that you think, do classes that they're interested in. And so ask them, what would you like to learn about? And so we would have spaces that they could write in what they'd learn about, and we'd do those classes. And about 3/4 of the way down, we'd say a class that they could check off. They could check off the ones they're interested in. And one was a class on how to study how Jesus healed in the Bible. I don't care if you're Catholic, Baptist, whatever. That's an interesting one. Well, what is it? It's a Bible study. And you can start working with those folks with that. You got to figure out what bait to use. When you go to the Gulf, you're going to use shrimp and you're going to use squid. When you come here, you do not use shrimp and squid. When you go there, you don't use our bait. And so you want to find out what works best for these people. And yes, it takes some humility. It may be we've been trained up and we need to find out we're in a whole different area. Ask the local people here. They can tell you how to communicate with local people because we've been doing it for years. And find out, what's going to meet the needs of these people.
It's interesting you mentioned that because this year we had last year, our health expo at Walmart, and just happened, one of the deterrent was the writing on our shirts, our t-shirts. Jasper Seventh-day Adventist Church Community Health Expo. The fact that Seventh-day Adventist Church, that may have been a deterrent. So.
It can. Not that you're lying to them. Just be a neighbor. Just be a neighbor. Don't go out there like I'm the Seventh-day Adventist Church here to convert you. I'm just coming to help you. Be a friend.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Have you ever heard by chance? Have you ever heard by chance the RBTI method of perfect health by Gary Reams? He died, but it's supposed to be a national, international type of therapy we use saliva and urine. They have a formula of 7 equations the perfect health based on your body chemistry. I didn't know if you happened to heard about that
No, ma'am, I haven't.
theory. Oh,
No, ma'am.
yeah, well, it's called RBTI,
Mm.
in case you want to look it up.
Oh, RBTI, yes.
Oh, you have heard of him?
Oh, yeah. Oh, who did you say?
Well, the original person who got divine revelation was Dr. Gary Ream, but he
Oh, yes.
died. Yeah.
Yes, Carrie
But I
Ream.
have quite a few people in
RBTI
Tennessee.
works.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's perfect health based on, the same basic lifestyle techniques, but it's sort of unique,
Yeah, Carrie Ream was a very interesting man.
Yeah.
And I've studied his theories,
Uh-huh.
and I use his theories,
Uh-huh.
and I found them to be effective.
Right.
Absolutely.
Another question, do you have any recommendations for like lower back, like bulging disc, like herbally, or you don't think there's any hope?
You know, I don't have an herbal aspect for that. What I would encourage you for those spine issues is to ask your physician or your physical therapist if an inversion table would be beneficial.
Yeah.
See y'all. Yes, ma'am. And we used an inversion table a lot in physical therapy where I used to work. And you want to ask your physician or your PT if that is something that might be beneficial. But I don't know of an herb that would, address that bulging disc. Yes, George.
A couple of quick things. We talked earlier about earth and grounding. 75% of people, it sounds hokey, and by the way, the New Age people are onto this stuff, but we're God's people. We take back the truth.
That's right.
And we don't let them hold it. But literally, there's little bracelets you plug into a grounding outlet unless there's an active thunderstorm. And the research, and I think this is accurate research, there's not much secondary gain, 75% of people get decreased pain from that. So that's option,
And
depends
water.
what it is. Some people need hydrotherapy, pool therapy. A lot of Americans have weight
Yes.
challenges that aggravates it. So, and there's some lidocaine patches, and they got internal pain stimulators to help some, but it's tough. Don't get on narcotics. If you're on narcotics, that's something with God's help and your church help and others, you want to try to get off, because I see everyone get hyperanalgesia. If you're on them, the pain will be worse and worse and worse. But it's a little better for a little while, so people get fooled, but it has a bad hook effect.
Yeah.
Just a couple other brief comments. And I wasn't trying to be controversial, because I know in my church there's been some dynamics, and this is Religious Liberty Weekend, and yet I think Conrad Vine, who's coming here, has done us a service.
When?
In March.
He's coming here?
So he's been a brave Elijah.
Is he going to Dunlap?
No, he's
coming here.
Yeah, he almost came to Dunlap, but you guys are smart down here. You got him, and we missed.
Good job, y'all. Conrad
good-
Vine is coming here.
So, but he's
Yeah.
done a good job, and not trying to be controversial, but as Adventists, we're known, I think most of the people are Adventists, and it's great if we have some visitors, but we know that when people absorb these 28 plus beliefs we have, that's a big thing for them to swallow, but hopefully we can be more patient, because we haven't figured out 1888 very well yet. And we know there's 40,000 different flavors of Christianity out there, and there's a lot of twisted views and or unhealthy views of who God really is, who Jesus really is. So hopefully we can work through these issues. And, I came close to getting the COVID shot, so I'm not critical of someone who got it. But hopefully we can press together, say, hey, what are the detox tools? Y'all's church may be the one that starts doing more anointings for people. If they can say, hey, Lord, if you can undo, because I don't think we can completely decrease the damage from that injection that is designed to hurt you. I mean, the data's really clear. It's not really controversial in my understanding, but hopefully we can press together, be patient with each other, and when we are witnessing, we'll be patient, because I tend to talk way too fast, and I want to give them a whole lot of data, a lot of things to chew on, and I probably overload people sometimes. So I like how you're a good reminder to me. Don't go beyond what the Holy Spirit's nudging you to do, and just follow that lead.
Going back to her question on pain. I like getting to root cause, but if you have pain, the best thing I have found for pain is wild lettuce. You take a quart of water, bring it to a boil, plumb turn it off, add 1 cup of wild lettuce. And to make it even more effective, I put 1 cup of skullcap in it. You can use Jamaican dogwood, California poppy. Those are also good, and one of those may work better for you. And then make an infusion and drink 1 cup every waking 2 hours. If that works well, go to 3 hours, so you're doing the least dosing. But wild lettuce is amazing. The guy who helped start Bastyr University, Dr. Mitchell, was a PhD in biochemistry, very, very smart man. And I asked Mitchell, I said, here's the outcomes I'm getting with wild lettuce. Is it healthy? Is it safe to use with medications? He said, absolutely. There's no contraindications with medications. I said, is there any contraindications with any other herbs? He said, no. I said, is there any problems with any organs? He said, no. Is there any problems with long-term utilization? He said, no. And wild lettuce is an excellent painkiller if you're looking for a natural painkiller. Yes. Yes. DMSO is something you can also use. Yes. Yes.
I just had a question about the 3-day water fast that you talked about last night. What is your recommendations to start that program?
Choose a day. That's important.
Yeah.
I had this guy, I was doing a stop smoking plan one time in Winston, right outside of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Toughest place I've ever done stop smoking programs. I did it for 3 years there. And so we had a class, and it was Thursday night, and I said, okay, everybody stopping Sunday night. No more smoking. You can come in the parking lot. That's your last cigarette. Y'all with that? And we're talking, we need almost 50 people back then. We used to have a lot of people come. Everybody raised their hand but one man. And I said, not good Sunday night? He goes, nope. I said, I'm coming to town this weekend. She's leaving Wednesday. I'll stop Wednesday. I said, I'm good. Choose a time that you will be successful. Don't choose a time, a holiday. Like you don't do it at Christmas or Thanksgiving. Don't, choose a time that you say, okay, these few days is good for me, so choose a good date. And then just do a water fast. Yeah. Now, this is really cool. I have George has taken a lot of anatomy, but I have a new piece of anatomy for George that he never learned in medical school. It's called the no muscle. Did you know you have a muscle called the no muscle? You do. It's in your brain. When you fast, you say no to food. Right? And when you say no to food, the more you say to no to food, the stronger that muscle gets. And we're told in inspiration, if we say no to appetite, we can say no to any other temptation that Satan puts at you. And so when you're fasting, you're getting physiological benefits, you're detoxing and stuff. You might lose weight, but you're also building the no muscle that you can say no to other stuff.
Do you recommend adding any salt to it, like a Celtic salt? Or
Like Barbara does?
Yeah.
You can.
Okay.
You just get better benefit out of 3. I remember Dr. Thrash would tell me 5 days really good. We would spend a whole week presenting on health. And she would say, if you will do just one thing I've told you this whole week, fast for 1 day a week. She said, it's amazing. Now, she said her husband, Dr. Cal, liked doing it 2 days a week. But she said 1 day a week. So that's good on an ongoing. But to start off, 3 days, you just get a really good benefit. Yes?
I don't like to get into like off the wall stuff, but I have kind of an off the wall question. We was our parents were put in a garden, okay, at creation.
We're put where?
In a garden at creation, right? Okay, so I've heard something about benefits of actually being barefoot on the earth.
It's exactly what George was just talking about.
Okay, I must have missed that somewhere.
It's
There's over like 31 or 33 studies in NIH that when people, if you're out gardening, you're touching, you're petting the dog in the yard, but the dog steps on asphalt, doesn't do nothing. But if you're petting the dog in the grass, you're pulling out weeds, it's good for you electrically. Now, a lot of us, we're busy, and it's hard to do it, or the weather's not great, or the mosquitoes are out or something. But there's a little band you can buy for like 12 to 20 bucks that you put on your wrist, and it's really good if you're on your computer, essentially a little static, so you gotta watch
Now,
it.
where are you hooking those bands to, George?
So it goes to a grounding outlet, just like you're grounding your TV. But it's set, and 62% of people lose weight doing that. And probably not a huge amount, but your blood, you do things like CRP is an inflammatory marker, and SED rates. They will drop if you're doing that. Your blood's viscosity, it goes ideal within 20 minutes. So a lot of people you can take time when you're sleeping. People actually tend to snore less. People have sleep apnea, won't be as bad. You may go from sleep apnea, now you're just snoring. So there's some really sweet benefits, and a whole bunch. If you go to earthinginstitute.net, they'll educate you on it. Sad to say it has sort of a new age flavor, but hey, Christians, that's another thing we need to take back at some point. So it's good to have healthy ministries saying that, because I know Wild was a little nervous because they had some doctor that was doing that, and he may have had, I don't know, some other factors. I don't know his side of the story, but they got real uptight about that, and I don't know, I'm not trying to be harsh on them, but out of fear, they didn't investigate it far enough from my understanding, because I've been in this since 2017, because, by the way, 20% of us have lipoprotein A, which is the bad lipid. Most lipids, 40% of your cholesterol is supposed to be in your brain, and this whole thing about statins, unless you have bypass surgery or stents in your heart, rarely should anyone be on a statin. It may be some unusual circumstances, but it's hurting people. It messes your testosterone, makes it hard to get your vitamin D up. It makes you more prone for diabetes, they're thinking now, and there's lots of problems. But grounding helps the lipoprotein A. The numbers don't necessarily drop, but if lipoprotein's high, you're 8 to 10 times the risk for strokes and twice the risk for heart attacks. So that's why I first came across earthing grounding, because it helps decrease that. The numbers don't go down, but your blood will handle it better. And you can take some curcumin, and briefly, you and I are talking, check out one called Biomore Curcumin, because after years and years, it's the only one I trust. Because turmeric, 50% of all turmeric has heavy metals put in there simply so they make a little more profit on selling it. They put lead and cadmium into the mix. Now, 2 to 8% of turmeric is where the curcumin comes from. And that's a lot of people hear about curcumin, but check out Biomore. I'm trying to do a commercial with their neat, godly people that I'm trying to just share some other things I like about God for them, but they're really neat people. But they have a great product, and it's much safer than most. So if you're into curcumin, be careful, because otherwise, EDC is one of the solvents used to get it out, and it's in your body for 100 years, a known carcinogen. And most curcumins, they have it until they say they don't. Now, some probably don't, but if they're not willing to say it, they don't know their market very well, and I'm not going to give them any support.
So
Biomore curcumin is one to check on, or holler at me, but Biomore, B-I-O, almost like a buy more. It sounds a little hokey. But Biomore curcumin, neat godly people that got a great product, and they got some other things I'm just checking into, but those are just the earth and grounding, simple, easy.
Yeah. Did that answer your question on that?
Yeah, I heard something about that, but I was talking about just like barefoot is basically
Right.
the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, okay.
Same thing. Now, George said something that's very important. I was at a seminar, I was speaking at a seminar in New York City a few months ago, and one of the presenters was talking about yoga and about what yoga is. Yoga is to yoke with. It's really an evangelistic program for their theology, Buddhism, yes. It's evangelism. There was a lady there that was some highfalutin yoga and way up in the yoga, and she told us, and she's since converted, and she said, I can take a group of Christian women and I can take them away from Christianity. And she said, that is our goal, to bring them into Buddhism. But this lady said, do not allow Satan to take hostage the term stretching. Is stretching good? Go to Africa. I tell you what, you can take a woman who is 300 pounds, a man that's 300, 400 pounds, and they can touch the floor with their hands. I mean, those people know how to stretch. That's part of them. Look at a dog, look at a cat, look at the animal kingdom. Do they stretch? Sure do. Stretching is important. Don't let yoga take stretching away, and if you do stretching, oh, he's doing yoga. Water. New Agers drink water. Does that mean I can't do water anymore? No, I went to a church up in Michigan. That woman would not come to one of my classes. The preacher's wife. On the way home, she asked me, what's your opinion on essential oils? I said, there are herbs on steroids that work really well. She wouldn't come because she said New Agers use essential oils. I said, they also, are probably total vegetarian.
So we had, one of the ladies at lunch asked me to ask you, she has a 4-year-old son. Jen, you might be able to speak more on this. It's Anna's son. He was violently sick last week, throwing up and everything, and she said it's almost seasonal. Did I understand that correct? Do you know if she's saying that? She said it just came on very quickly, but because he's so young, she couldn't do some things because he was already dehydrated. Do you know more on it, Jen? Because she said to get you involved.
Not quite, but yeah, she was, I guess she was so concerned because he was extremely dehydrated. She was vomiting and having diarrhea at the same time. And so she asked me if I can go to her house and give him fomentation. I said, no, I can't do that. He's already dehydrated, and if I give him fomentation, he's gonna sweat more and he's gonna be so weak. You need to try to give him, fluids.
She was wondering what you could do for the gut after that too, because he was so sick.
I told her to give warm charcoal water in warm water because warm water gets it absorbed more instead of cold water.
It's true.
Yeah.
So
But he was throwing it up. She said
Yeah.
every time she gave him charcoal, it would
Yes,
come back up.
exactly.
So she was concerned.
So here's what you do. If a person cannot hold anything down, and I learned this, we talked about this morning from a professor at Rutgers, and I thought, well, I don't want to use that product. So I called a friend of mine. He was a physician in North Carolina, and he said, use activated charcoal. I said, I did, but they threw it up. He says, you need to do it this way. And I found it to work every time since, is you make a slurry water. And so you take a glass of water, put 1 teaspoon of activated charcoal, stir it. And then take a 1/4 teaspoon and give it to them. Immediately stir it again. Wait 15 minutes, give them a 1/4 teaspoon. Repeat every 15 minutes. And then every hour increase by a 1/4 teaspoon. So the first hour is a 1/4 teaspoon, second hour is a 1/2 teaspoon, third hour is 3/4 teaspoon. He said, you will be tempted around 3 hours. You're tired of doing it. You're going to be tempted to say, okay, let's give him charcoal again. He said, do not do it. It will not work. Well, we talk about testing, so I tried it. Not on that person, but on 1 time or 2 times, maybe 3 times on people that weren't as serious. And I found, sure enough, they'd throw up. So he said, you need to do it for 7 to 8 hours. And then you can then give them regular charcoal. And I have found that to work extremely well. And again, it's slurry water. Stir it, give them a 1/4 teaspoon, immediately stir it again, wait 15 minutes, give them another 1/4 teaspoon. Repeat that every 15 minutes during that 7 to 8 hours, and increase by a 1/4 teaspoon every hour. Either way,
Doesn't matter.
adult or child, yes, and it works. Now, that's to get them to stop vomiting. That's not saying what's the problem. But once you get them to stop vomiting, putting in things, one of the best things I found to put in is aloe vera. Aloe vera really, just as it's very good for the skin here, it's good for the skin in the gastrointestinal tract. Slippery elm is excellent. Marshmallow root is excellent. Carob powder is very good. Also, licorice root. But the big ones I like is the aloe vera, the slippery elm, the marshmallow root. aloe vera juice. You could do gel, but a lot of people don't like gel because it makes them, it's the viscosity, they kind of get choked up on it. And so the juice works better.
We used to do carob powder in applesauce.
Yes, that's the way I like it.
And it would settle it.
Yes, it
and
will.
was really good.
I don't like in the water, so I prefer the applesauce. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the best way.
Someone else asked if you had any books. Have you produced any books?
I started writing a book, and then I decided to get another degree. So I'm back in school to get another degree, and when that finishes, then I will finish and continue on.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to go back to the fasting. I was in an auto accident and have some cervical issues. If I attempt to do a fast, by the middle of the first day, I'm on the floor in pain. And so I'm wondering if you have any suggestions that might surpass that challenge.
Yes, there's different kinds of fasting. First is intermittent fasting. And unfortunately, the fad of intermittent fasting is wrong. They need to adjust it a little. Because the fad of intermittent fasting is the noon meal and the evening meal. Let's go back to Neil Nedley's book, Proof Positive. Excellent book, excellent book. He talks about in there, when you do not eat breakfast within 2 hours of awaking, you increase your risk of a heart attack by 150% based on the platelets. So it tells us breakfast is important. Dr. Koop, also in that book, says that when you eat breakfast, it increases metabolism, it burns calories. When you eat dinner, it increases metabolism, it burns calories. And around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, metabolism turns off. And so when you eat supper, it doesn't increase metabolism, you don't burn calories, so you just want to take those 2 meals and move it to breakfast, dinner. And let's go back to when we were kids. Breakfast like a king, dinner like a queen, supper like a pauper or a college student. And so if they do need something for supper, my first choice would be drink some tea, some herbal tea. If they need something more than that, they could drink maybe a V8 juice, a low sodium V8 juice. But the best thing is if they don't, from a fast standpoint. So that's intermittent fasting. Then there's something called raw fasting, where you just eat raw for breakfast and raw for dinner. There's something called juice fasting, where you just drink juice at the meal times. So a fast doesn't mean that you have to plumb quit, or a fast could mean you eat a normal breakfast, but you do something like a juice fast for the noon meal. And so you don't have to just go from full food to no food. Yeah. Yes, sir.
What time are you going to start tomorrow? What's your subject?
10
And
o'clock.
what time are you going to end? But my real
I have
question
no
is,
idea.
But my real question is, will we have some time for some good questions that are still last to ask you tomorrow?
Okay.
Yeah, it's 10 to 12 tomorrow.
Okay.
And 10 to 12, and if you want to entertain questions again.
Yes.
Or it'll be more hands-on, so you can
Yes.
answer questions right then, I guess.
Okay. Yes, sir.
You mentioned missing breakfast or not having breakfast within 2 hours of getting up could cause a heart attack.
Yes. Or stroke.
What about the water fast?
It's a good question. The water fast is for a short period. And so it's not like day after day after day. Does that make sense?
No, you had mentioned the 3-day water fast.
Yes, but it's not like you're doing it for, all the time. And so that's just a short therapeutic time frame. If the person's concerned, they could do a juice fast for breakfast and then, plum fast the other time. But it's just for 1, 3, 5 days, so it's a short period of time.
What about somebody that's already had a heart attack?
Just do a juice fast for breakfast, and then you could fast for dinner and supper.
So you're saying a water fast would not be a good idea?
I don't find it a problem just for a short period of time. Yes.
I think with his, okay. I think what you're thinking is that if you miss a breakfast, you may die that day. That's not the issue, actually. The issue is over time, over years, people missing breakfast.
That's right.
They have a much higher likelihood to have a stroke or whatever. That's what it is. It's not just missing a breakfast here or fasting and water diet here. It's your lifestyle. And that's what's bad.
Yeah,
actually.
but Dr. Thrash never told me any problem of a person who had that history to warn me that that was a problem. But if a person's concerned, then you could do a juice fast. Because I don't want somebody saying, well, he told me, you know what, being scared can affect you. But I agree with what he's saying.
Yes, my question is, how would you...
Can I ask you a question on what he just asked? When you feel what he was talking about, there's something wrong, if you feel a tingle with that, is that giving you evidence possibly get ready for a stroke? You should get somewhere to find out if that's what it is.
Let's come back to that later. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Question is, how do you treat, have you used any of these, I guess, natural remedies to treat eczema or psoriasis?
Yes. We used to use calendula. Some people, highfalutin people say calendula. Some people use oatmeal baths. But I found they quit working. And I called Dr. Agatha and I said, Dr. Agatha, for psoriasis, eczema, rosacea, they're not working anymore, what I normally do. She says, what are you doing? And I said, I'm doing calendula, I'm doing oatmeal. She says, yep, that's what we used to use. And she says, they don't work no more. I said, what's going on? She said, it's the wheat. She said, she says, one cracker will kick on psoriasis, eczema, rosacea, and arthritis. It will kick it down the road 2 to 2.5 months, she said she had found. And she said, have them just plumb stop. Plumb. Making sure that it's not in any ingredients for 3 to 4 months. And that is the most successful thing. I had a guy come in just the other day. Psoriasis is gone. And that's what he did. Yeah. It's just stopping. Now, you may find, after you do that, to get it out of your system, you may find that you can go to jovial wheat. You can buy that on Amazon. And that's what Mary Lou uses if she cooks, makes some bread or some biscuits or some pizza dough or something. She'll use that wheat for me, and she'll make bread out of that jovial wheat. Jovial. It comes out of Italy. It's got 14 chromosomes. It has no Roundup on it, and it's good. And I'm finding people tolerating that. But I just go plumb for say 3-4 months. Once you get it taken care of, then then you can test that other wheat and see if it's a problem. Now here's my concern. When I was in Sweden last year, I was hearing comments about wheat allergies. Well, why? They use only 14 chromosomes over there. There's a problem. We bought 2 things of einkorn wheat, and I had it tested by UT and one other lab, and they told me I was buying the low chromosome wheat. It was 42 chromosomes when I got it tested. And so I asked the labs, how can it be? It's the 14 chromosome. And they said it can be cross-pollination. My concern is, and I brought some wheat back from there, but I can't find anybody to test it. But we did a lot of sending wheat to Russia. Remember that back in the 80s and 90s? Are we seeing cross-pollination moving across Europe and contaminating? Possibly. That's why I want to test their wheat and see, is there wheat where they don't realize? Somebody probably realizes, but has it gone contaminated with our wheat that's over these 30, 40 years has moved across from Western to Eastern Europe?
And just last question here. You had mentioned rebounding as an exercise. What exactly is
That's
that?
a mini trampoline.
That's a mini trampoline.
Yes. Now, when you do it, be careful. Dr. Cherney he got me to I had one was from Montgomery Wars, and it was just real rigid, and boom, 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 and I put in a good rebounder, and I bought 3 of them, and we got it in, and there's several patients, maybe it's been a few years ago, been about 22 years ago, and we put them on, I put probably a good 7, 8 patients, put them on it, and the next day everybody's sick. So I called Cherney. I said, Cherney, what's wrong? All these people are sick. And he just started laughing. How many of y'all remember Harold Cherney? Y'all know Cherney. He's just laughing. And Cherney was a jolly guy. And he said, Walt, what did you do? I said, I did 15 minutes BID, twice a day. He started laughing again. And I said, Cherney, why are you laughing? He said, I did the same thing. He says, those people coming to you are toxic. You just cranked up their lymphatic system. A mini trampoline will increase your lymphatic flow tenfold. And the liver just can't handle that much. And you get a Herxheimer syndrome. And he says, here's what you do. You'll never have a problem. And I have not. And that is, week 1, 5 minutes, 3 times a day. Week 2, 10 minutes, 3 times a day. And then you can build it on up from there. You just got to slowly start up, or the liver just can't handle all them toxins coming to it.
This is our last question here.
All right. She's trying to take care of me here.
So,
You told me to last night.
brain damage from substance abuse. What herbs would you use to help restore the brain cells?
The first herbs, well, the first thing I would do is just healthy food and doing the 8 laws. And the things that we've talked about tonight on specific health issues, you cannot forget the health laws, those 8 laws. To increase that function on the brain again, there are things like ginkgo biloba. There's something called magtine. Magtine, it's a magnesium that Dr. Khanna uses. It's a thionate, I believe, magnesium thionate. That is good for the brain, he's found. I have found if you're addressing health issues, one of the best things to do to push that red button. Remember the old Electrolux vacuum cleaners? Those old power nozzles? And you'd have shag carpet and suck up a string, and you'd pull it out and push the red button, it'd restart. Our bodies are that way. I found to push that red button is a juice fast. It just gives copious amounts of nutrients. And yes, you want to look, as George said, look at your B12, look at your vitamin D, and what does that brain need to work well? But the juicing I'm finding very, very good for improving brain function. Exercise, if they can, is important to increase that vascular flow. There's another tool that I'm using more and more, and I'm finding it's amazing. It's called far infrared. There's near infrared, mid infrared, and far infrared. Far infrared is outside of our eye spectrum. We can't see it. Insects can see it. It's kind of like a dog can hear things we can't hear. Well, far infrared, we can't see it. But it's phenomenal on improving perfusion. It changes the water molecule in the blood cell to where you have better perfusion. Mrs. White says, perfect health is perfect circulation. And that far infrared is just amazing for that. And I wouldn't do the sauna because it'll start getting hot. But the light, like a 700 watt light, and you can go to NIH and read all kinds of stuff on far infrared, from rhinitis, sinusitis, just all kinds of things, bone healing. I had a lady come in a couple months ago that had a fractured arm. Orthopod said the bone was not healing. She had a hard cast. A hard cast. We used the far infrared. It penetrated through the hard cast. In 2 days, the pain went away. 5 days, she went back to the orthopod. He found it was healing. And so it can penetrate in that skull, and it increases perfusion. And the key is to increase that perfusion. Take away anything that can harm, but give what the brain needs. Yeah. All right, y'all.
I guess we'll just finish with prayer. How many appreciated this? Wow, that's unanimous. Thank you, Walt. Let's have a word of prayer. Father God, I thank you so much that Walt could come out here. And Lord, why he does it, I don't know, because we are not paying him. But he loves people, and he wants us to be well, and he loves Jesus, and Jesus loves us. And I just ask, Lord, that we will not leave this place without thanking Walt for coming and thanking you for being here today. Thank you for the Sabbath. We ask, Lord, that you would be with each of us as we go through this week. Lord, bring us back tomorrow morning for some hands-on stuff to be able to know how to make these concoctions that would help us to be more healthy. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
If you're looking at general information, I've got a guy who had really, really bad epilepsy, very bad. He had to quit working. He would have grandma seizures, and he's been well over 2 years now. And she drops under the tongue 3 times a day, and it works very well. We've also seen very good success for essential training. But if you look at any Brazilian natural stuff, Brazilians have been using it for many years because it is the most anti-inflammatory phytochemical that we know of. Yeah.